What separates the rich and wealthy from everyone else? The answer might surprise you. Are rich people truly happier than the rest of us? Come along as I reveal the 5 secrets of the rich and wealthy, and most importantly, the number 1 mistake destroying your ability to be rich. Are rich and wealthy people truly happier than the rest of us? The indisputable and unequivocal answer is yes. What? Josiah, what are you talking about? What do you mean they're happier than the rest of us? Yes, they're happier than the rest of us. And here's why. So the same reason that rich people are happier than the rest of us, that same factor is the number 1 mistake destroying your ability to be rich. So Josiah, what is that factor? What separates the rich and wealthy from everyone else? And if they're indeed happier than everyone else, why are they happier than everyone else? Well, in order to understand that, let's look at relationships. How many of you know people, family and friends, who are in happy relationships? Of course, all of us do. Here's the converse. How many of you know people, family or friends, who are in toxic relationships, dysfunctional relationships? I recall a close relative who was in a physically abusive relationship. I mean, it was bad. It was so bad to the point where her life was threatened on several occasions, where she barely escaped with her life and she had to leave her child behind. It was that level of trauma she dealt with. Her partner had all intents on killing her, and she escaped. What if I told you, and would you believe if I told you that after escaping that abusive relationship, barely clinging to her life, the next relationship she entered was one similar to the one she was in? She entered another physically abusive relationship. Would you believe that? Some of you know what I'm talking about because perhaps you're now exiting a relationship that was defined by physical, by mental, by financial abuse. You lived with someone who did not consider your humanity above that of a thing. You were always unhappy, and they did everything in their power to make you unhappy on purpose. When they communicated with you, it was always in a level of accusation, and everything about the relationship was about control, dominance. You left that. And for many of you, you rebounded so you understand. You can ask anyone who's been in a dysfunctional and toxic relationship, why did you remain? And the person will tell you this. And according to research, this is why so many people remain in toxic and pathological and dysfunctional relationship. The most powerful motivator for remaining in a dysfunctional and toxic relationship is low self-worth. The most powerful motivator for remaining in a toxic and a dysfunctional relationship is low self-worth. So Josiah, how does any of this relate to the idea that rich people are happier than the rest of us? And how is this the number 1 mistake destroying one's ability to be rich? How are those things related? The primary difference between rich people, wealthy people, and everyone else, and their ability to become wealthy and rich, centers on this one idea. Rich people love themselves better. I'll caption this. Rich people love themselves better. I know that's a wild and bold claim, but I stand by it. Now, this begs the argument. Josiah, are you saying that people who are not rich don't love themselves? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that rich people love themselves better. I'll use myself as an example. When I was earning $30,000, $40,000 a year, only a few years ago, I loved myself. I don't think there's a single person who would argue or who could argue that I didn't love myself. I loved myself. But I can tell you this. When I 10x'd my income to $300,000, I loved myself a whole lot better. I promise you I did. And I'm on the path right now to 10x'ing that again to $3 million. I promise you I'm going to love myself even better. There are levels to this. What I'm suggesting is the greater the accomplishment, the greater your purpose, the greater your ability to define and realize your dreams, seeing everything coming together, seeing yourself expanding and unfolding, feeling better about yourself every day as you check off one goal after the next, one goal after the next, It does something to your psyche. It does something to your state of being. It does something to your entire reality. It makes you feel good about yourself. There is just this power and this belief about you that no one can shake from you. Something incredible happens to you when you start believing in yourself. Something incredibly transformative happens within you when self-love becomes a driving force within. So one of the questions I started with is, do you know anyone in a happy relationship? Do you know anyone in a toxic relationship? And immediately your mind went to interpersonal, social, human relationship. Do you know what else I had in mind? I was also thinking about your job. That's a relationship. In fact, we spend a third of our lives working. That's a relationship. And if we spend a third of our lives doing anything, wouldn't that warrant us being in the best relationship that we can possibly be in? I can tell you that that's not always the case. For 30 years, I'm telling you, personally, I accepted what employers gave to me. I have graduate degrees, and yet still I was making $30,000, $40,000. It's not the employer's fault for paying me $30,000, $40,000. That's what I accepted. They gave it, and I took it. I accepted that. But when I realized my inherent power, when I understood my full self-worth, when I started practicing self-love, when I started practicing self-care, I'll tell you what, I no longer accepted mistreatment, maltreatment. I no longer waited on them to tell me what I was worth. I came to the table telling them this is the only salary I'm going to accept. I dictated the terms of the agreement. I dictated my earnings potential and my earnings power. I no longer left that up to them. I'm not going to stay in any relationship where I'm being mistreated. I'm not going to stay in a relationship where I'm given false promises after another, only to placate me, to make me feel good about what's currently happening, not thinking about my future, not doing anything to change my family tree. I'm not going to stay in anything that looks like that. Whatever opportunity I accept, whatever opportunity I engage in, it has to be beneficial to me, and it has to have the ability to change my family tree. If it's not doing any of those, I'm not interested, and I'm not going to accept it. When you love yourself better, you're going to find yourself attracted to relationships that's not defined by toxicity. When you love yourself better, you're not going to just sign on the dotted line because someone presented you with a 10% increase. 10% is not going to move the needles for me. As soon as I enter a conversation and you're telling me, well, you know, the most, Mr. Harry, the most we can pay you is $250,000. Well, you can take that $250,000, put it under your pillow and sleep on it. I'm not going to accept that. I'm worth more than that. I'm more valuable than that. But that feeling, that experience, that behavior, that attitude that I developed did not happen overnight. I dealt with failures. I dealt with obstacles. I dealt with trials. I dealt with challenges of all kinds. It wasn't until something within me started to be transformed that I was able to accept what I really deserve. I could have easily started a conversation by telling you the top 5 secrets of the rich and wealthy, which are, and I have listed, number 1, they have identified a problem to solve. They leverage their time. They leverage their money. They have multiple streams of income, and they have a powerful network. That sounds great. And those things are necessary if you're going to become rich and wealthy. I'm not saying to dismiss any of those. If you're going to become rich and wealthy, you're going to practice all of these and more. But in order to do those things, a foundation has to be laid. And that foundation is built on self-love. If there is no self-love, there's no self-worth. If there's no self-worth, you're going to accept whatever comes your way. Rich and wealthy people know what they're bringing to the table. They know how to identify and solve problems. They know how to leverage their time. They know how to leverage their money. They have multiple streams of income, and they have a powerful network. But none of those things will be possible if they had not first taken the time to believe in themselves, to value themselves, to treat themselves kindly, to speak gently to themselves, to speak lovingly to themselves. So if you want to join the realm of the rich and wealthy, start by loving yourself more every single day. When you love yourself more and more every single day, everything else will fall into place. Riches and wealth will come to you like a magnet. You will draw those things onto you, and you will be wondering, where in the world was this all along? There are no limits. You can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. You can have whatever you want to have. Love yourself better, and you will attract riches and wealth. You will attract whatever you desire. And it's always true. Whatever follows I am, you become.